So welcome back to my channel. This is Dom, and today I'm going to be upcycling some of these old figures to make them more presentable and usable for the tabletop. So I mentioned this on one of our Monday night podcasts the other night. I was hunting through all my piles and piles of figures in the Garage of Shame, and came across these medieval figures that are fairly Norman-esque. And given the fact I'm building this Norman army for Sicily, I thought these will do really nicely as part of that army. I think they're Crusader. They are probably I probably painted them at least 15 years ago. And they're okay. I mean, they're alright. But I think I could do a lot more with them. My painting has improved considerably since I painted these, and I want to see whether I can do something with them. So all I've done is literally, they're all on individual bases, shockingly badly done bases for that matter. All I did was rip them off the old bases, and I've put them on. I built up exactly as I showed in one of my other videos. I built up the bases with polyfiller, and then painted them with Iraqi sand, then loads and loads of glue, PVA glue, and into the sand stuff to basically get that sort of effect. So that's what I've done, and frankly that's improved them already. You may be able to see I've also just gone in with a very, very fine brush and done the eyes, just literally dobs of white. They need tidying up, but I thought let's work through them and see what we can do to improve them. So let me just move some of these out of the way. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 8, 10, 12, sorry, 13 figures. Which is an odd number, but I've had a hunt through the garage and I can't find any more. So there was this guy who I've actually had a practice on and tarted him up. And I think he's a gripping beast figure as well. I've done him up as a general, and I've just already done some work on him, which was kind of my test run, if you like. So I'm going to see what I can do with these fellas. So first up, what I'm going to do, because they're actually really nice figures. I think really obviously they're just knights in mail, so there's not an awful lot to be done with them. I think I want these to be like a mercenary group of Normans. Shield transfers are all done. You can see how old these are because these are these very old. Can't think what they're called now, but transfers you used to get back in the day before you got things like Little Big Man. So I think the horses need a bit of attention. I think the skin tone needs a bit of attention. I think the inner parts of the shields need a bit of work, and probably the belt. And then I think probably some washes. Maybe the scabbard could do. Yeah, you can see I haven't edged the scabbard at all. So it's just one colour, and I haven't bothered to put any silver or anything around the top end. So let's make a start. What I'm going to do initially, I'm going to use, so these are just straight out. They've been varnished back in the day, but I'm not going to do anything else. So I've got some contrast paint, Dark Oath Flesh, and I'm going to initially just use that. So obviously I've done the eyes. Now I'm just going to whack that around where I can see any flesh. Try not to get it too on anything else. He said putting on the sword hilt. So we'll let that dry and I'll do the rest. I'll be back. Okay, so that's the skin tone done. I think that already has dried quite a nice colour. What I'm going to do now is I want to brighten up some of the helmets on some of these troops. They're all wearing just mail, from pretty much head to toe. So there's not an awful lot I can do to brighten them up, but remembering the brief on these figures is that they're supposed to be, well, this army is supposed to be Normans in Sicily, and so they would have started to take quite a bit of influence from the local Saracens who they were fighting in terms of colours. And so my other Norman knights are very bright, so I'm going to start tarting these up as well. So I'm just going to paint straight over the top. This is just neat paint, not watered it down at all because I want to have good coverage. And I'm just going to do just a bit on the helmet like that. I'm going to do a quarter of that blue. Then I'm going to do the opposite side. A quarter blue as well. That sword's going to be right in the way. So I'm going to slide it down. Oops. Bum. That's why you need a figure holder done. Try not to get my hand in the way when I'm showing this, because otherwise it's pretty pointless. There we go. So I've just put a bit of colour on there. I'll do some more and back after that's done. So all the helmets are finished off. I've also got some silver out and just touched up the blades on some of the swords, the bits on the horses, and the edges of the scabbards as well, just so that they're pretty much done now. Now I'm going to just work on the horses a little bit. Most horses have socks, so all I'm going to do is put a few socks on. And if you look at horses, they're fairly randomly placed. You know, like not every single horse will have it on all foot. I'm also going to do a little bit of white on the front of there. There you go, just a little bit on the front there. We'll do some more on the horses in a minute, but this will do just to sort of pep them up a bit. And that's all we're doing. All I'm doing with these figures is just pepping them up, making them a little bit more table worthy, shall we say. So I'm going to do this and I will be back in a mo. Well, mo for you. Okay, so the horses are all done. So I think, I also forgot to mention I did the insides of the shields. Just got in there and I used Warlord's wood brown on that, just to sort of reddy brown, just to simulate that wood effect. Next up, I'm going to give these a thorough wash. I'm going to use Nuln oil, and I'm just going to put it all over the figures and let them dry, and then come back with some more. It's always satisfying putting a wash over a figure really generously like this. Alright, so the wash has all dried. These are coming together quite nicely. It's given a little bit of texture to the horse now, which it didn't really have. That and the flashes on the front. It's also made the belt stand out more, so I was thinking about repainting them, but I'm not sure I'm going to bother. Scabbards look better too. I think what I'm going to do now is, you can see there's a little bit of decoration on these scabbards. So I'm going to try and pick those out with a bit of gold, I think, just to sort of, again, give it a little bit of pop. A little bit of pop. Hear these things said by proper painters, and I think, oh, it sounds cool. I'll say that, pop. I think it means just stand out. So actually let's start with our single man because that's easier to do. Oh, of course he hasn't got one. So what I'm going to do with him, I'm just going to put a few little dots on his scabbard, just so it isn't quite so plain looking. Also because for some reason I painted them all exactly the same colour, I'm just going to make sure the sword hilts themselves are popping a bit. Okay, I'll do the rest and be back. Okay, so I've done hilts. I've also put the bit of gold around the brooches here, or buckles on the straps. I've touched up some of the hilts and pommels of the swords. I'm just going to lighten up the faces a little bit. They've darkened up a little bit more than I want. So I've got some, this is just pale flesh, which I'm going to use like a highlight. Just going to pick out a bit too much on the brush there. Just carefully pick out cheeks, the top of the lip there. Might as well just do the fingers as well while I'm here. Just the tops. There we go. Ooh, probably blocking that with my hand, but I'm sorry. There we go. Oh, I'm holding it too high anyway. So I've just touched up the face a bit, the knuckles of the hand. I'm going to do that. I think I managed to hold that too high, so I'm sorry about that. Let me do it a bit lower if I can. So these fellas here, just a little splotch there on the cheeks. Those ones aren't that noticeable, their faces, so not so much of an issue there. Just do the little tips of their fingers. Just to sort of pop the, there you go again with me pops, just to make the washes just sort of deaden down the colours a lot. And even though we'd put that skin tone over the fingers and the hat, all the flesh, it just sort of made it look a little bit dead. So I'm just there we go. So I mean, just makes it a little bit more bright. So I'm going to do the rest and I'll be back. So the faces are done. I've touched up the edge of the hands. These guys are starting to look a little bit more up to date. I'm going to have to do something about this flag. I'm debating what to do with that. Yeah, don't know. What I'm going to do now, because the horses themselves look a little bit flat still, even with the wash on them, so I'm going to give them a dry brush of Iraqi sand. I'm only going to do the horses, I think. I'm going to try not to get the riders. Got the small dry brush here from Army Painter. Let's just just try and work on the haunches, a bit on the tail, just make that stand out a bit. That's better. There you go. I think that improves. That horse gives it a lot more definition. So I'm going to do the rest and I'll be back. I think that's helped just sort of liven up the horses a bit too much on there. Just rub that off. I mean, the good thing about using a dry brush, if you put a little bit too much on, you can just rub it back off again. It's a bit silly, oh well. Anyway, yeah, I think they're doing okay. Might just brighten up the male a little bit now, because the effect of the wash has just deadened that down too. So I'm just going to get, this is War Paint Shining Silver. I'm just going to sort of dry, bit more than dry brush on the figure, just on the bits of mail that look to be standing out. Like the toes. Almost like a highlight. Well, I suppose it is a highlight really. Just to give that a little bit more shine. Like that. You know what I'm going to do now? Back in a minute. So there you go. I have touched up a little bit of the helmet colour. Also a couple of shields, just sort of pep them up where the wash had dirtied them down a fair bit. And I think actually they kind of look pretty good. I'm quite pleased with how these have, you know, they weren't awfully painted to begin with, but they just needed a bit more TLC, I think. And just that little bit has just made all the difference. Yeah, quite pleased with how these have come out. So these can join my Norman Force. I do need to find a better standard than that. That is what I will definitely swap out. But I'll leave it on for the time being. But yeah, I'm going to try and have a hunt for a much more authentic looking flag. Certainly less tatty than that one that's definitely looks every inch of its 15 plus years storage in the garage. But yeah, there you go. Just upscaling, upgrading, whatever you want to call it. Some old knights to be a little bit more useful for me. So that's another 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 more knights ready to join the Norman army. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. In the meantime, stay safe, stay well. I hope you're doing well. I hope in this mad world you're surviving. Remember, if you're struggling, just reach out. Always reach out to your mates, to your acquaintances. We're all here to help everybody. And I will see you again soon. This is Dom, signing out.